welcome to our very first weekly news wrap-up show that we don't really have a title for yet.
It's called the Coin Out 3 Weeks Wrap-Up. That's all we need to have.
Okay.
Perfect.
So that's the thing. That's what it's called. Making history.
Yeah, if you're here right now, you're part of history.
Whoa! Except no one's here right now because this is pre-recorded. Those guys that were here a few minutes ago when this thing accidentally went live because PlayStation is kind of stupid, they're not part of history. No one's here. Scratch the record.
Oh boy.
History is ours and ours alone.
Okay, thank you, Metal Gear Solid. Such a dramatic thing to say about a game show.
So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about what we're planning to do here. First off, we're going to talk about how royally fucked I have made Eric in this whole situation.
Lord.
Because we're going to play a little bit. Well, the plan was to play a few side missions while we talk about news from the week. It is 10/11 is October 11th, 2015. That guy is just coming up on your tail. I would just ace him as soon as you can. So yeah, while we're well, nope.
No. Whiff. Super whiff.
Nope, we're done. So yeah, we're we were gonna play a few side missions while we were doing this, and then we suddenly realized that the last side mission I was playing was one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah, and just make Eric do it.
Well, I mean, that's generally the plan, is to set myself up for something really difficult and then put you in a position to fail at it.
True.
It works. So far, it's worked flawlessly.
True.
So, all right. In the meantime, I will, while Eric frustrates himself to no end, I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we've been planning for this. So, typically with this, our idea is to kind of pull together some of the bigger news pieces that have happened during the week and just first of all, make people aware of them if you haven't followed this stuff already. If you tend to digest your news in a more relaxed setting, you know, not instead of like following everything. That was really well done, actually. Yeah, so we're here every week, hopefully, knock on wood, to and I won't actually knock on wood because apparently that freaks out the dog. Yeah, so we're gonna come here every week at the end of the week and kind of wrap up some of the more interesting stories, some of the ones that we think deserve to be looked at a little bit closer while we're getting shot at.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah.
No, okay, well.
All right, nope, you're just gonna have to let that go. Whatever you do, don't kill that A+ guy that you marked because we need him. I will be really annoyed with you if you do that.
Well, whose fault would it be, Robert?
Yours, because you weren't good enough to handle it.
Well,
after not playing this game for like 3 weeks and just dropped you back in. That's not, yeah. Eventually they will go down if you hit them like that. Oh, get him in the head, get him in the head.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, let's discuss news rather than... This was afraid it's going to happen, that we're sitting here and play games rather than just doing our actual show.
So yeah, the idea here is that we're not going to be talking about the game we're playing. This is mostly just backdrop, and we're going to be talking about new stuff too, and while silent blows people away. Yeah, silence pretty rough. Anyway, so we're going to just kind of jump into it. So this is typically going to be a short format show like most of ours are. We're going to try to go for about an hour and a half. We're not going to talk about absolutely everything. There's no way we can be completely inclusive about this. And the topics that we focus most on may not seem like the biggest stories to everyone. We recognize that. These are the ones that you know, we sit down every week and we kind of pull together all the ones that we would like to talk about. And then we've got a pretty long list, and we narrow that down to the ones that we think, hey, we can get something out of this. We can talk a little bit more about this. And hopefully this is the goal of this, at least for me, is to have a broader look at the industry in general, rather than focus on particular games or something specific to the game we're playing or anything like that. The games we're going to be playing on this are, for the most part, just going to be completely random. We're not going to announce them beforehand. We're just going to pick something that we want to mess around with while we're talking, and that's pretty much it.
So deal with it.
Yeah, so if
you
you don't like
this.
then, I don't know, go think about what you've done.
All right.
And then come back later and watch other stuff.
Your show.
And subscribe and do all the things that we would like you to do. When,
things.
As we insult you.
Clicks. Anyway,
right.
Robert, first off the bat, what are we discussing today?
So yeah, we're going to try to go through the week as chronological as possible. some of the first cool news. It's not really huge news, but the interesting stuff is looks like Rocket League, which we've enjoyed the hell out of in the past, is getting some DLC, free DLC for Halloween.
That is some regular DLC for Halloween. Some spooky.
Yeah, but apparently
Halloween.
it's going to be free,
Yes.
and some of it's going to be spooky. And of course, now that I look at everything, for some reason the web page is not coming up.
Oh, hold on, stop.
So,
You gotta like.
oh, that's right. I'll have to keep Mike alive while we're doing this.
This is
So,
purely. This is great, by the way.
that's okay. This is why we pre-record. We can cut stuff out.
Correct. And we're back.
So yeah,
Okay.
need to turn the notifications off too. And we are almost back in.
How did I
there we
get
go.
here?
We're back in. Yeah, we're cut things. All right. Anyway, yeah. So it looks like Rocket League's gonna be getting some free DLC. As far as what's gonna be in it, I don't think we've had really too much information about what it's going to be. It looks like it is. It's gonna be Halloween themed, obviously, since it's coming out this month.
I saw actually what's gonna happen. Like a couple of toppers, like a
Yeah.
jack-o'-lantern topper. things
Yeah, I'm
like
looking at
that,
them now.
Spooky. Like, yeah, calavera.
Mhm.
You know what?
No, actually, we do have a full list.
Do you
of
know
what's
what
going on.
calavera is?
I do not.
It means skull in Spanish.
Oh, is it those candy skulls?
Yeah, like
I don't
sugar
like
skulls.
those
Like
things.
what's the deal? Like with like day-to-day kind of stuff. That's
Well,
what
sure.
comes
Eh, not a big fan.
from. Of candy skulls?
Yeah, I don't know why. And it's like it's not a
Ooh,
cultural thing. I just don't like the way they
diamonds.
look. It's weird.
I think like awesome. That's
Eh,
neat though.
well.
Oh, the
Anyway,
art of that.
so yeah, looks like we're gonna have the Calavera antennas, candy corn rocket trails. That one should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also really gross tasting.
I love candy
Carriage
corn.
wheels. We're not talking. This is not the candy corn podcast. We'll get to that later.
That's not. Maybe tomorrow night.
That's an
kids.
end. That's an end of October special. Carriage wheels. So I'm assuming like pumpkin.
No, I think like a spooky carriage.
That's a really
To
weird.
take
that
you
feels like
away.
that feels kind of bottom of barrel.
It's
Like, what are we
Count
gonna do
Chocula's
wheels?
right.
Like wagon wheels? I don't know. Fuzzy brute antenna. I don't know what that means. Fuzzy vampire antennas.
Yay.
And a pumpkin topper. The pumpkin topper looks really cool. I like.
Yeah,
that.
I'll get that for sure.
Now one of the things they are noting about this is that you do need to. It seems that you do need to have. Oh, actually, you will not need the Revenge of the Battle Cars DLC to get the free seasonal stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Since Revenge of the Battle Cars is coming out before that on October 13th for $3.99. Da-da-da. So yeah, so even if you don't want to buy the DLC for Rocket League, which you should because it's great, you'll still be able to get your hands on a few things to
Keep that blue, by the way.
make your cars look less aerodynamic,
And
among
more-
other things.
And more, I don't know what's what I want to say.
So yeah, item 2.
Halloween.
Just stop. You just put the candy corn down and
Oh, good.
calm yourself.
It's got a hold of me.
Put your pumpkin spice latte away.
Pumpkin spice is everything nowadays.
All right, so
Pumpkin
yeah, that's
spice,
it's gonna be
evil
interesting. By the
boys
way,
over here.
this is probably a good time to mention all of the news stories that we're talking about. We will have a link dump attached to the YouTube attached to our YouTube video that eventually goes up, hopefully tomorrow. Actually, it's definitely tomorrow. So
Definitely maybe.
any of these, we're referencing everything we talk about. These are not necessarily our stories. Maybe they will be in the future. Who knows? But we'll see. So yeah, what else are we gonna talk about? So yeah, this might be a good time to segue into one of the bigger pieces of news that we wanted to talk about from the week. This came through on Monday. So I'll preface this by saying, and the reason I wanted to talk about this, and the reason this is interesting news to me, is that a lot of people, over the past couple of years have talked about Nintendo in really vague terms about the company's decisions recently and their financial stability and all these different things. And a lot of people seem to assume that because the Wii U didn't perform as well as they wanted to, and as far as a lot of people concerned, it's almost a catastrophic failure, which it hasn't been.
It's the internet, so everyone acts
I
like
mean,
it.
yeah, that's one of those things. It's like if it wasn't a hit, it automatically failed kind of situation. But recently, the Japan Times. So the Japan Times every year they put out a list of the top 100 brands globally. And for as long as they've been putting out the list, Nintendo has been at the top of that list. And the list is not necessarily, it's not based completely on financial, you know, gain and everything, but it's also about their, like, their kind of, the Japan Times perception of what makes a company, you know, valuable and you know, really top notch, which is the financial decisions they make, the kinds of things they put out, the way that they listen to their customers. And so for the first time, to get to the actual story, for the very first time since they put that list out, Nintendo did not make it. And it's the top 100 brands, which is not necessarily to say they weren't high up, they just didn't make the final list. And the list includes, you know, a lot of people, especially a lot of Japanese brands, Toyota, Honda, Canon, Nissan, Sony, Panasonic. These all made lists, and they typically do. So yeah, this is one of those things that was kind of a big deal to me, and it stood out with Nintendo because it does really kind of highlight the fact that people have been talking about, oh, Nintendo has just been losing money year over year, and they've spent 4 years in the red and all this different stuff, and they're just doomed. And it's like, okay, let's stop to think about this for a minute. Yes, they haven't been doing well, but the Wii U has been out for, what, 3 years? Maybe?
3 already?
And it's probably actually been more than that. Let's see when the Wii U released. Let's take a look here.
Like 2, I want to say, but
I'm about to find out. So, November 2012. So it's been out for 4 years.
4 years or 3 years?
Well, November 2012. So in November it will have been 4 years.
Are you sure? What year are we in right now, everybody?
Oh, I'm thinking 2016. So it'll have been 3 years.
There you go.
Whatever. Yeah. So the 3 years that this console has been out. And they're just now getting to a point where companies are stepping back and going like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So regardless of whether or not they've been losing money, this company has been doing well enough to fly under the radar for that long. To me, this, and you can look at this news however you want it, but to me this news felt very much like a reason to take a look at Nintendo and say, you know, this is a brand and this is a company that is so ingrained in the culture and so powerful in what it's able to do that anytime they make if they make a bad decision, it's going to take 3 years for the world to really catch on to.
True, like it's such that ripple will take a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody else.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is a company that could spend over 4 years technically losing money on paper and really still be without. They didn't need to take any really major action.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they've been fine. And one of the interesting things about the article, and I definitely agree with the article itself, in that a lot of the focus and a lot of the reason that they decided to take Nintendo off the list was not so much about financials as it was about the company's unwillingness to stay with the curve, how they were really slow to embrace a lot of the social aspects of gaming, and how they've been really negligent, really not wanting to bring in smartphone gaming and mobile gaming outside of the 3DS, which, I mean, let's face it, 3DS is a really fun platform, but hardware-wise and in the ways that it offers things, it does definitely feel like a very last-gen kind of machine, and that I can tell you is not going to work out for you if you try it. So yeah, just make your decision there. So yeah, I mean, it was more about their kind of unwillingness to listen to what their customers wanted, because people have been calling for them to try, you know, to make mobile games for a long time and to step up, you know, beyond the Wii U, or the 3DS. And they've just been really holding off on it and not really interested in trying to branch out and trying to connect with their fan base in these new ways. I mean, the social presence of Nintendo is still really not great.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo, the Miiverse is underutilized and it's not really very intuitive or fun. And you know, even if they tried all of the steps that they've taken to seemingly integrate it more, they weren't really interesting. I still don't use it at all. You know, it was an interesting look at me, both in what Nintendo has been like, where they've been going wrong, which they've been doing some things wrong, as much as I've been enjoying what they've been putting out, and in the fact that people forget easily that this brand is as powerful as it is, because they look at it. I think a lot of people, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, or if it seems like I'm out of line on it, I think people nowadays put Nintendo on the same level as Sony or Xbox, in terms of like, well, they make game consoles and they're they're one of the big three, quote unquote. So they kind of measure them against that same. They measure them against the same ruler that they do these other two brands. And the fact of the matter is that Nintendo is a titan compared to them, especially in age.
True, and I think I will like fall in the plot in the same kind of your point is that people will fall in this hole of being like, well, Xbox and PS4 have like Call of Duty and all your like and Assassin's Creed, all these AAA titles. What do they? They don't have those games, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you know, they don't care about that. They tried doing that, and it didn't work out for them very well. They said, you know what, screw that. We'll make our own games, like Splatoon and Mario Kart, you know.
And actually, I think that is one of the things that's been hurting them. And we don't have to go down the whole rabbit hole on that. But
Sure.
what you're saying, resonates with a lot of people in that Nintendo's third-party support has historically not been great. Yes. But you think back on really hard-hitting consoles like benchmark consoles like the Nintendo 64 and the Super NES, where their third-party support was unanimous.
Do you know why the third-party support is so bad back in the day?
Actually, no. Go ahead.
So you have to realize that in the early 80s, say '83, there was a really big video game crash. Because everyone was making a bunch of crappy games and shoveling them out. Like,
go watch the Atari documentary where they dug up all those things.
Exactly. But it goes well beyond
really
that.
Well.
But in any case.
Well, it highlights it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But in any case, Nintendo was terrified of letting this happen again to them. So they had, like, for third-party people, they said, okay, you can only put like 1-2 games a year. And actually, Konami, one of the biggest people for NES to make games, made a shell company. Did you ever hear of Ultra Games back in the day?
I did not.
Well, Ultra Games made a few games, like a few action games, and all it was a shell company created by Konami to put more games out per year. Because I think like a 2 game per year rule. Because they were fearful that like between games in a year, they'd be terrible, and then you'd lose money after a long while.
Interesting.
And the problem with Nintendo is that they could hold on to their what's the word I want to say? Like the way they operate, they'll hold on to those values forever.
You can fold that sheep out, by the way.
Can I help you?
What, the sheep? Just shoot it in the head. Or kick it.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I need them anyway.
What's that?
I need those anyway, so if you want to knock them out and take them back to base.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where Nintendo has been slowly pulling away from third party,
which for better and for worse has worked out for them.
Yeah, I mean, despite I think in a lot of people's opinions, it's been despite their reticence to work with other publishers and their insistence to, I think it was Satoru Iwata that made a really interesting case once when people were talking about. I think it was around the time that they announced the Amiibos and their decision to do things like that. And he was saying that Nintendo still sees themselves as a toy maker rather than a video game company, where they still see themselves making toys. And it doesn't matter who enjoys the toys. It's one of those things that they market. The decisions that they make are more in line with the decisions that a toy manufacturer would make. Which again, it's one of those for better or for worse, because there are things about that make them really unique and make the things that they do really interesting. But at the same time, it can limit them in their scope. And I think they're starting to realize that limit, the limit of that scope. Him, please.
I know. Well, if I can, unless your woman shoots him for me.
Yeah.
Like the last.
No,
time.
well, hopefully she. Yeah. As long as he doesn't see you, she shouldn't snipe them. So anyway. Yeah, so I think it's interesting to. It was an interesting story to me in that it really highlighted just how long it would take Nintendo to really be in trouble. Because a lot of people said, "Oh, Nintendo's dead. Nintendo's done because they've missed the whole console generation and they're just now catching up and all this." So it's like there's no way they can bounce back. It's like Nintendo doesn't need to bounce back. Nintendo just needs to bounce. Like they're pretty much just waiting to drop. I think they're waiting to drop the microphone at this point. Yeah, right, R1 will aim a little better. So, yeah. So anyway, that was an interesting one. I highly recommend reading the entire story and looking into that a little bit more, because I think a lot of people would be surprised by just how far Nintendo is capable of going before they're really going to be in the same boat as smaller and less established developers and publishers. So. Yeah, So let's see, what else have we got on deck? So this was a small one I wanted to talk about real quick, unless you have something to jump in with.
No, go ahead.
So CD Projekt Red just finished up they finished, quote unquote, finished up The Witcher 3. They're still supporting it, but it's come out. They're about to release their second DLC with it. It's big. I know you haven't played it yet. I've been playing it for several months. It may very well be my favorite game of 2015. So but it's huge, and it's one of those things where not only because of the size of the maps and the amount of things that there are to do, just the scope of the whole game, how it feels. So they've been working on, they've announced, they haven't quite yet started working on it in full swing. A new title that they're going to be coming out with in a couple of years called Cyberpunk 2077.
What's that game about, by the way? That sounds really cool.
Probably Cyberpunks in the year 2077. There hasn't been a lot of talk about it. That was the thing. One of the things that it's important to remember about them is they've been adamant about the fact that they will support The Witcher 3 fully for another 2 years.
That's insane.
Before they even start talking about they start really focusing on this game.
That's insane.
It's insane, but you know what? CD Projekt Red, as of yet, has not had a major misstep in 3 Game of the Year level games.
Yeah, and I really like that, but to hear that now saying like we will not abandon this game so quickly, in an age where game comes out, it does great. A month later, they go, okay, we're now doing the next game. Immediately they're talking about it.
Yeah. Where we have yearly Assassin's Creed franchises, and every year they get worse.
Exactly. You got that right.
So yeah. So any of those things. It was really interesting to see that they talked about that, and they're letting little pieces of information because everybody wants to know about this, obviously. So they kind of have to give people something to basically get them to leave them alone. So an interview with actually, let me double check and see who the interview was with. It was their so it was their one of their effects artists, Joe. I'm gonna screw up this. Jose Tejera, maybe.
Let me see it. Show me.
All right, give it a shot.
Teixeira.
Okay. It's a weird spelling.
Yeah.
Was talking to MCV about this, and magazine the UK, because obviously CD Projekt Red's from Poland, so most of their news is going to come from there. And basically stated that the game is going to be, and this is in quotes, far, far bigger than The Witcher 3.
Wow.
Yeah, which to me is one of those things that The Witcher 3 is absolutely the biggest game they've ever done. Not only is the actual scope of the world massive, but the amount of things that you are able to do in the world itself is huge. I mean, this is a game that can keep you busy for, the same span of time as something I conceivably like, mods not included, it's something like Skyrim. It's massive. For an RPG, it is, it's a mouthful. And so for this game to be even bigger than that, that's going to be really something to see. I'm excited to see what they do with it, because I'm really interested to see what the company's going to be capable of outside of this kind of I want to say it's a safe space, this bubble of the Witcher world.
They know that wheelhouse very well.
Well, and it's also not only that, but I mean, this is it was a franchise that had legs before they started it, especially in Poland. Like they could have done well inside of Poland, and around the UK, and it would have been fine for them. But to have, I mean, it's impressive to have had that series go so far outside of their, section of the world. But it was one of those things where the books were bestsellers for a long time. People knew the franchise, people were aware of it, and it felt like something that they were definitely capable of holding on to. So yeah, but this is something completely new. It doesn't have any. There's really no safety net for this game other than this is the first time the studio I feel like is going to be operating under their own name.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, we're the guys who did the games based on those books everybody liked.
Yeah, this is their own deal, and I love cyberpunk games, so
yeah.
2 years from now, I'll keep a close eye on this one.
So if it's something like I don't want to start putting expectations on it necessarily, but if it's something like akin to Shadowrun or something like that,
man,
might be like that kind of breath, or like a Ghost in the Shell kind of vibe. That's going to be something to see, especially if it's built like The Witcher 3, when you have that amount of freedom, or maybe even more freedom than that. Who knows?
Probably.
Yeah, it might be
interesting.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like that could be my future game where Fallout, like, it could fill the space in my interest that most people typically reserve for Fallout.
Fair, fair.
Yeah. So.
Fair point. All right, what's next on the?
So moving on, let's. Do you want to take another big story? You want to get
Yeah.
a couple more little chunks out of the way, or?
I want to talk about the VGS here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, go ahead. We'll talk about that.
So, full disclosure, most of the information I took for this article, for this little talk, is from the Nintendo Legend website. If you're on Twitter, follow at Nintendo_Legend. He's a great guy. He knows his retro gaming stuff. Cool dude. Love talking to him. He's got his own website, and he's got a blog that he keeps about retro games. So all the information I got was from this guy, so just everyone knows I'm not stealing information at all.
That being said, I do have the website and the Kickstarter up for it. So
there you go.
We'll have
So the idea behind the Retro VGS is this. A lot of people who love older games, like me, love to use them. But in the age of like downloadable games and streaming, it's kind of gotten lost. These are these guys come into play. These guys have an Indiegogo campaign set up where they want to raise $1.95 million for this entire ordeal.
1.95, you said?
Exactly. That's their goal. 1.95. It's Indiegogo. It's not Kickstarter, by the way.
Oh, okay. It said Kickstarter.
Sorry. Well, it's so interchangeable, you know? I would keep this going.
Yep.
Their idea was to make a new avenue for indie developers to make money. They thought, okay, well, you know, if you're an indie developer, rather than you putting it on Steam or somewhere like that, we can, you know, you put it on a cartridge for a console that we develop, and people can enjoy your games without having to download patches or updates or have to deal with like the game. Like, and a lot of people are afraid that games will one day go away. Like, some kid or some team makes a game.
By the way, if you hear me laughing, it's because I'm reading some of the stuff on here, so we'll get to that.
No. And they'll go away. Like one day, like people will take down that game off the internet you paid for, and now it's gone forever. That kind of fear played a lot into this.
The classic argument against digital distribution, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Now they had a pretty good idea behind this. But where they fell apart was the execution. Because, one, no one really wants to put out that much money for a console that's destined to fail. I don't care who you are, what you're doing, that thing is going to fail. Here's why. You're not going to get enough support from developers, big or small, to support an older style cartridge-based system. Now, I will say there are a lot of people out there who have like homebrew games. They make like homebrew, like Atari games and whatnot.
And that's a pretty old tradition. That whole concept has got legs.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like, I think it'd be cool if, like, for instance, let's say I was making a game, like a little side-scroller game, and I put it on Steam. But then I was like, you know what? I developed it to where it also could be ported to like the NES. So put it on the internet, NES too, just as a goof. Like, hey, if you want to pay me, you know, $20, I'll make you a cartridge and ship it to your house. And,
sure.
End of story. But I really do not see the legs underneath this system where people are going to go out, spend a couple $100 on a system with no games for it. Like, 4 games are announced. Like they said, these 4 launch titles are announced or were announced for it. Now, mind you, today on the Indiegogo page, I looked for them, and 2 of them had trailers on there. They've been taken away now. Okay. Don't know why. Just saw that.
So to preface the rest of your discussion on this, let's tell the nice folks at home of that 1.9 that $1,000,095 number that they had that they're asking for. How much have they made so far in 22 days? Okay,
so before we even go further than that, at one point they were in the mid $60,000, like $65,000 range. Right?
Really?
Yes. And then now, currently, they're at $35,244 USD.
So they have lost money.
They lost 30 grand. Mainly the fact that they have attacked anybody who's questioned them. namely Pat and Ian from the Completely Unnecessary podcast. Pat the NES Punk and his friend Ian, great guys by the way, love watching their stuff. They talked about that on their podcast at one point about a week and a half ago, which then the people who ran VGX fired back at them with a lot of what's the word I want to say, what's the word, vitality, which where do you want to
Vitriol.
Vitriol, there you go, vitriol.
Yeah.
With tons of vitriol at them. And since then, their things have kind of fallen beneath their feet. The whole walls of Jericho are falling down around them, essentially. And to be honest, I want something like this to succeed. I think it'd be really cool if like a mom and pop kind of place, made a little cartridge system, and it got the attention of all of the indie developers. It kind of became a darling of the indie developers. I think it'd be cool if like people were like, oh, like we need like 20 grand for this whole deal, and we'll kind of make it as we go along, that kind of thing. But to ask people for $1.95 million and then act like assholes to people who question you, not a good idea.
So, I mean, the thing about this, and here's the situation. What's amazing about this story, and I know you've been wanting to talk about this for a long time.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this story is that this is a tragic tale. Not even tragic. I mean, I don't even know what word I'm looking for on this. This is the wrong kind of story to come out right now, because we know how this ends. We have seen so many Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns and all these campaigns from people who just assume that their idea is the next best thing, just fail. And I mean, we've seen people do it. We've seen people do things wrong in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. And the fact of the matter is that you just can't, like, if you're doing something like this these days, you should know better. I mean, there's no reason that you should act like that or ask for that much. That is an absurd amount of money for something that is, and as much as the retro, nostalgia kind of, fad seems like it's a really big thing these days, it is a niche market, and it always will be, because I mean, that's never going backwards is never going to be the next big thing. I mean, it's going to be something that's fun and that people enjoy, and that maybe maybe if it's done smartly, you can capitalize off of. But a project that with that much ambition, that does things in that specific way, where they don't want, it's becoming clear from the way that they've been treating the whole thing that they don't want to change their vision to. They don't want to keep their vision malleable. They want it to be something. They want it to be their thing, and they don't. It's like their kids building a base for toy soldiers. Like, no, the gun has to be over here, and you can't have this over there because this is the way I like it. Like, no, like you can't. You have to move with what people expect and what people want.
Exactly.
And the thing about it is you talk about like really liking to see the idea, and I agree. I think it is one of those things that it's a very cool concept, especially for indie games, which one of the big challenges and one of the big fallbacks of cartridges is always going to be the size, and the space that you can put on it.
Yeah.
And it's going to always limit what you can do. That's why, these retro-looking indie games have become so amazing, is because they're using the same, they're setting up the same expectation as a small, game that was very simple, and they're making it huge because they have all the space in the world. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So, this idea that you're going back to cartridges, regardless of how good storage hardware has become, it's never going to be enough. And you know what? What's amazing to me about this whole thing is this idea. Like, there's already people out there who have come up with ideas that are way cooler than this one, and they work in the kind of gaming environment and the kind of community that we're in right now. Best example I can come up with is IndieBox.
Yeah.
So we and you saw a little bit of what IndieBox does at PAX, and I've talked to him a little bit more about some things. IndieBox is a small monthly subscription box service, kind of like Loot Crate or NerdBlock or something like that, that they specifically work with indie game developers, and anywhere from small games that don't really have a lot of attention to big, kind of Steam hits. Yeah, he's worth it. And they put together boxed versions of these games, and they come out with really cool stuff. They put, they give you physical copies, DRM-free copies of the games, typically on a USB, like a clever USB device. They give you full color manuals, a great, really high quality box, and little extras. Like sometimes they have a really cool NES style controller with them. Those have been really popular. And it's like a USB controller. But the point is it's not something that you have to have this whole crazy, almost, I mean, dare I say it, hipster-esque system
Yeah.
to play. You plug it in your PC, and you still get that old kind of feeling, but you have, you know, it's capable of running without doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where the saddest part about this is that clearly you're dealing with people who don't understand that what it is that they want to do has kind of been done better already. No, this is gonna go well.
I think like this energy could have been put towards like helping out indie developers get like noticed. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like that could have been like a much better avenue for energy.
And it doesn't sound like what they're doing is actually, it doesn't have the best interests of these indie developers at heart. The fact of the matter is that especially if it's something that, something like that requires specialty hardware and a special, I'm sure they have their own distribution rules that they want to set up. It's expensive, and it's more expensive now because those lines of like, they're not factories out there creating these cartridges. They're gonna have to do all that stuff special
In-house, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna have to either be done in-house, or they're gonna have to find a distributor who's willing to do it. And it's just that whole thing is gonna it's almost like it was destined to blow up in the faces. I don't know if it's gonna survive this. Yeah, it's just, and it's kind of, I mean, it's really disappointing that they, you know, that they handle things. I mean, the fact that they are like insulting people and trying to defend this crackpot idea is, it's another you know, it's one of those things where it's like that mistake is another thing that's like, you should know better, because we've seen people on Steam do this and it does not go well for them. It does not help them. Yeah, it does the opposite.
Game that came out that was like blowing apart the other day, like last year.
Oh no, I mean, it's happened a ton of times. I mean, there's a ton of these people who clearly have like anything from a scam to just a really bad, like a poor idea. The kind of idea that if they were smart, they would have just learned from, cut their losses, and moved on. But instead, they tried to hold on to it and pretend like it was something really worthwhile.
Yeah.
And again, they would attack anyone who said otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and these are these. It never ends well for them, because people are sensitive to that kind of stuff. The internet's really good about policing that kind of thing, as odd as it sounds. And it's just, yeah, it baffles me that they've gone so far. And I mean, they've lost. If what you're saying is true, they've lost half of the funding that they've already received, and that is not even a fraction of what they were supposed to, what they were saying that they needed. Which is,
it's just like to end this conversation.
Yeah.
Basically, if you watch Shark Tank, which I watch every once in a while with my wife, it's decent at certain times. Some people, you know the idea of the show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, Shark Tank. Yeah,
people will come up on that show with like the worst idea ever, and like there's one person on there. He goes, you know, this idea is terrible. Like you need to cut your losses, just quit this thing. This is never gonna be profitable. And like, no, we can do this. This is a thing we can do. We put our heart and soul in this kind of thing. And they're like, okay, that's cool and all, but honestly, this idea is terrible. You need to take it out back and shoot it right now. It's that bad.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, that's, yeah. And then you know, you hate to see something like that. And I think I really understand what these people were trying to do, and I think that's a really cool idea, especially in an age where physical media is rapidly disintegrating. But I really don't think they thought about the consequences of what it was they wanted. By the way, if you blow up that big thing with the antenna, you can call in your helicopter if you want. Actually, it's already blown up. Never mind, I did it. So yeah, I don't know. It's really sad to see, but honestly not surprising. And the only other thing I can think of that, you know, when you sit around going like, how did someone think that this was going to work, especially for that much money, is I think these people were really, I think they had visions dancing through their heads of the Mighty No. 9 Kickstarters and the Pillars of Eternity Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And these huge, big, you know, high-profile concepts that were well thought out, and they had big names behind them, and there were lots of reasons that they were going to do well. And they thought, well, we can do that too. It's like, no, you don't have any of the things that these people have. It's not, it is a game of resources. It's still something that you are not, you can be ambitious, but you need to pay attention to what it is that you're saying. So, yeah, we'll have to keep up on that one as it unfolds, but I think that one was,
It's unfolded pretty much at this point.
Well, and I mean, you know, 'cause you never know. Things like this can change, and they may more. Don't limit people, man. They might have plenty more ridiculous stuff way up their sleeve that they want to
True.
throw out and be nonsensical about.
All right, switching gears a bit less intense. You keeping up on the Street Fighter V news? Yeah, they just announced Laura, their newest fighter, a brand new fighter. I'm actually kind of, you know what? I'm really excited about her, and here's why. The idea is that she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter.
Spoiler alert: more cleavage.
Exactly. Yeah. I like her hair. It's some dope hair.
That's okay. Yeah, that's
like-
I'm
it's like-
sure what every guy said when they saw that. Oh, I really
No,
like
no,
her.
her eyes, bro. It's
I
not
mean,
her eyes.
with the shifty look in their eyes, trying to make sure that people are totally buying it. I
Yeah.
like her hair. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
No, there's more cleavage. And the last girl like crushed people with her thighs. I don't know what
Yeah.
I know what they're selling.
But the idea behind her is that she's very quick, has lightning-based attacks as well, which is pretty cool. I guess in Brazil, you just become, lightning powered at all
So-
times. Brazilians are just like super lightning.
Are they trying to summon Captain America with these, or not Captain America, Captain Planet,
Planet?
with these new, because they got the Wind guy, they got the Lightning Girl.
Okay.
Isn't there another
There was
one
never
that does?
lightning in Captain Planet, by the way, but
Dude, look,
like,
I was 6. What do you want
there was-
from me?
like, dude, come on, this song.
I
Earth.
got-
Wait, they tell you
Dude,
which
don't
one is in
understand what
there.
I'm trying to
Was
do
there was
here.
like, was there
I'm
like
trying to make a
lightning?
joke
Never-
and be entertaining, and you're calling my shit out for no reason.
I know,
I just
sorry.
like, wouldn't that? But you like
Don't
unlockable
you.
Captain Planet secret character in Street Fighter V is all was what I'm saying. And you, did you punch him? Hey, good job, buddy. So yeah, I'm gonna watch a little bit of her video because I actually haven't had a chance to.
You
to
need
check
it
this
then.
one out. Well, of course. It's gonna get loud. Nope, it's fine. Yeah, and they've been
So she
cranking out
moves
news.
very fluidly. You can tell the way she moves. So about like being fluid, chaining combos quickly,
The very
and then
first
ending it off with like,
very
a
first
slam.
frame in this thing is a big green stripe going up her ass. Yeah, no, they know what they're doing. Yeah,
Capcom.
it's all about fluid movement.
Yeah.
Boobies.
But just watch the way she moves. It's
Yeah.
like boom, 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 boom. Like it's really rhythmic.
Is she Eddie?
Figaro, basically.
Because if she is, I got a character. We're good. Well, and the reason I laugh so much about like the cleavage and those those jokes is that I am a little like, to me it feels like I may be wrong because I know Street Fighter's always been a little tongue in cheek, it's always been a little self-aware, but I never felt like there was this much. I feel like this is the first time they've really been going. Dude, they've been doing these things with these female costumes. I mean, Chun-Li was always kind of like yeah, she had exposed thighs and all that, but like her costume was pretty sensible. It fit with what she was doing in it, but it didn't feel like the whole point of the costume was to be like sexy or revealing. And I don't really think, were there any characters in the early Street Fighters that were like that? Did I miss some
yes.
maybe? Okay.
Well, I mean, Cammy was pretty
Yeah, but when did she show up? I'm trying to remember. Wasn't she?
Street Fighter 2.
Was she in? Okay.
She was in Championship.
Okay.
But you look at also like Sakura. She just kind of like is like I'm a schoolgirl. I got short skirt. Better watch out, And
Yeah.
so that's I mean, but even Chun-Li in her own right was kind of like she was like trying to be slutty, but she was like sexy.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's getting it. Like they really started. It's almost, the thing about it is that revealing outfits on women have always been like they're kind of a trope for fighting games, and I always felt a little bit like Street Fighter was just a hair above that, and or at least they were conscious of how they were designing these characters' costumes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a little concerned that they threw a lot of that out the window. And they're just like, just fuck it, just put boobs out there and let's just get on with it. It works for Dead or Alive. They made millions. I felt a little, I got that vibe when I saw it. And I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna to just diatribe about. I mean, let me put it this way: if you will look at the pictures on that wall, you can see the state of things that we're in. You can use R1 to zoom in. You can see the state that we're in with games right now. It's not really gotten any better.
Yeah.
So that's
It's like-
silent, everybody.
It's like, oh, bro, I love you, and then like,
And then yeah,
like,
of course it is Kojima, so there's not.
Yeah,
We're
that's true.
we were never gonna have a healthy relationship with women coming out of this game. That was
True.
that was predetermined. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been like the last couple of character reveals. It's like these people look cool, but I do worry that they're leaning a little hard. I don't know. It's just it was a vibe that I got. I figured I'd throw it out there.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see her and see how she moves in the game.
I am actually really, as much as I am, just because the problem is Street Fighter flies under my radar a lot because I am so bad at Street Fighter. I am awful at Street Fighter, and I've never gotten any better.
We'll work on it then. When it comes
Yeah,
out,
that's
play
what
it,
I'm
okay?
actually legitimately excited to play this one because I feel like if I could start in from the beginning, it feels like they've made some interesting changes, and it might actually be capable of going in and like doing something. Are you listening to cassettes now?
I don't know. I thought about
Back
the base.
out. Oh, you wanted to go back to base?
Yeah.
So hit your menu. There you go. Over one. Just, to the left. And oh no, I'm sorry. Go to missions. That was my bad. It's been a while since I played. Return to Mother Base. Right there at the bottom. Struck River. So yeah, I just and that's the thing is like our Mika was the one that it was a really like a
Yeah,
big
it's just
problem
like,
for me because she was obviously like, I was like, man, they phoned that in. It's just like, just
Yeah.
paint part of her. It's whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know. So, that was just the thing that stood out to me.
What's next up in the pocket?
What else have we
Puppy.
got? So, actually,
I missed you, Dad.
yeah, D-Dog,
Woof.
man. D-Dog's awesome. So, it's, one of his suits, he has a knife in his teeth, like the Wolfhound
Nice.
logo. Yeah, it's good stuff. You should probably shower. No, seriously, there's a shower.
I know.
Okay.
Let me see your comment. Talk to the dog first.
Blood, delicious. I haven't done this yet. What's going on?
Sorry. Guess I've been away a while.
Don't be such a stranger. Bad example for the men.
Oh, that's why he's chewing me out. I haven't been back to base in a while, and it usually tells you to come back. Like, you usually should come back to base like every 1 or 2 episodes, or 1 or 2 missions. And it's been a while since I've been back.
No, that's the extra.
So like, I'm sure a lot of the there's fights breaking out and morale's low. So go and bump into as many men as you can, because it'll
Sure,
boost
no
it.
problem.
Yeah, there you go. Just do that, and it'll help.
Yeah.
Go shower first, because they'll get weird about it.
Yes, dear. Good God.
Clean up your act, Snake.
God, take a shower. Don't do it right now. Don't wait.
at
Don't
your-
wait for this
look at
thing.
your
Just do it right
weird
now. Alright, let
schoolgirl
me shower
poster.
first. You look at the news.
All right, no. So
My
actually,
goodness.
the next bit of news that I wanted to talk about is actually relevant to this game. This one is one of those I'm going to try not to get really worked up and angry about it.
Okay, but
So the new update for so they released Metal Gear Online
Okay.
this week, which is fun. It's good. Alongside it, they released an update to the main, like, to the single player game, and really heavily focused on the forward operating base mission. Which honestly, I will temper what I'm concerned about with the fact that I have not actually done any forward operating base stuff, and it hasn't really affected me. I don't feel like as far as I know, I've never been hit by a forward operating base mission, and
Yeah.
I've never had to do one. So maybe I'm not far enough in the game. That's entirely possible.
maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. It just hasn't affected me directly. So basically, a lot of what people are talking about, and I'm going to pull up the actual story itself here, is that what they introduced was a new microtransaction system, which the system was there, but they hadn't really implemented it fully, and now that they've implemented it, you can buy insurance with real money for your forward operating base. Now, do you know anything about the forward operating base feature?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Wait. What do I do with this guy?
Nothing. You just walk up to them and it'll say morale is increased, and that's all you need to do. It's basically you're like reading them. X. So nothing. You don't have to do anything with them. I don't know why it's marking them.
Okay.
Anyway.
Doom Rooster.
Yeah. So basically, what you could do there's a multiplayer aspect to the game where you can invade other people's mother base. And I'm generalizing here, but you can invade an online version of their mother base, and you sneak through it, and you can steal resources. You can steal their turrets and their men, and their like canisters of goods and stuff like that. All these different things you can take, and the idea is to like go through it as stealthily as you can, or just go through and raid the place and get as many bodies out as you can. And all of those resources go to your base.
Okay.
And it was this kind of interesting, like, spy versus spy, kind of like,
Sure.
return fire sort of situation. Well, and it was but it was a big deal because, like, the way it was set up is that like any resources, like the resources that you gather in the single player are automatically tied to the resources that are available in the forward operating base. Like, so if you lose stuff in a forward operating base mission, you lose it in the single player game, which means there are people who have spent a ton of time just building up a lot of these resources, building up the best men, all of the resources, all the materials they can find, huge GMP, surpluses, all these different things, like a ton of things, and they're just gone. And when people steal, it's just a huge thing. It's taken out of their base. Well, this is a situation now where now you can buy insurance, and what you do is you pay real money for a month's worth or something like that, or like basically one transaction's worth of insurance, to where anything you lose in a forward operating base raid, it stays there now. It stays in your single player campaign. And a lot of what people have been concerned about lately is that this update, this new microtransaction system is a way for them to, like, people who have a lot of people are getting the feeling, and this is not just a community, like there are a lot of journalists and a lot of people who play the game. Oh, go get that, actually. There's a blueprint up there. Sorry, I just noticed that blueprint. I'm having Eric do all of my grunt work for me. Nice, good job. Yeah, so but a lot of
blueprint up there.
I have no idea. I don't know what it is. I don't really mess with this stuff too much. I don't play this game in an optimal fashion.
And then you mean to get this stuff for you.
Yeah, like it's just like, I don't play this game because if you can do it, that's great. That's one less thing that I feel like I should have to do. Anyway, yeah, so the feeling has been that these people who sink that it feels like Konami was recognizing, hey, the people who put the most time into this game, into the single player version of this game, they have the most to lose. So they'd be the ones, like, they would be willing to pay us real money to not have their stuff taken from them. And it's just, a lot of people have gotten this big vibe that it was intentionally designed to convince people to pay this extra money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't add to the experience of the game. It doesn't do anything for you. It's not extra content. You're not actually getting anything. You're basically, I mean, it's exactly the scam that insurance is in real life. You are paying, you're gambling, you're betting someone else that someone won't steal your stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's been shady, and it's gone a long way towards, I have this, I've been getting slowly fatigued with this game, and part of it is because, like, I have a short attention span and I have a lot of games to play, and when I realize the more stuff, the further you get in this game, the more stuff you have to do, that, like, to as upkeep, basically. And after a while, it gets tiring. Like, I don't want to go back to my base every 5 minutes and shake everyone's hand. I don't want to take time out of the field to go pull all these resources up just so I can stay ahead with my weapons. And it gets tiring. But like, trying to deal with that when there are other games that I want to play, when I still enjoy this game, and I'm kind of like having this internal, like, well, I like the game, but I don't want to come back in a week and realize that I'm way far behind.
Like Animal Crossing.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that kind of thing. This is not a playthrough. This is not a hit it and quit it kind of game. This is set up for you to sink a lot of time in, and that's part of the concern, is that a lot of people feel like that Konami was aware of this and intentionally crafted the way the game works in single player to support, like, to entice people to buy into the system that they created for it. And that's speculation on its own, but there's some pretty compelling evidence when you kind of sit down and look at the way that it's built. And there's some hearsay that kind of suggests it, so I'll leave everyone to kind of make their own decisions on it. It's definitely worth doing some research if you play the game and you haven't really kept up with what's going on. Because again, I've played through a decent amount of the single player story, and I never really, the forward operating base thing hasn't really affected me at all. But that being said, I don't care about a lot of what happens to my base.
Boss, we really need some more room here.
That's quiet cell, basically. It's behind you. She plays a bunch of the music that you collect. It's kind of cool.
How about it?
So yeah, I don't know, and it's one of those things where it's another kind of black mark against the way that Konami's doing business now, where it feels like they saw this opportunity in mobile games to make a ton of money based on a very unique, like a very unique platform, and they're trying to shoehorn it into these big games. Just fall off the shooting, yeah. The accuracy doesn't matter.
Hold on to them until they're ready to take them in.
What the hell? We're perks.
So I don't know. Any thoughts on that one? 'Cause I know you've just picked up a big mission to like focus on, but
Yeah, like I think, yeah, the age of these transactions going on in games really annoys the hell out of me. And I guess on one hand, it's like, look, you don't have to do that. There's no reason you have to like, pay money to do this.
yeah,
But just the fact that it there bugs the crap out of me is because like if we rewarded this behavior, what else they can put ahead of us? You know, it's kind of like, well, if you really want the true ending in the game, like pay us $5 to get the real ending. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
well, what's malicious about it is that no one would be so brazen to do that. But what they would potentially do is say, "Oh, well, there is a secret ending. It's totally optional. It's not it's not necessarily an official ending, but it's one of the endings in the game. But you you have to do certain things to complete it. One of those things relies on the microtransaction idea.
Yeah, it's like
who knows?
Oh,
That's
you
a
gotta
thing
buy
that
this
can
eyeball from this one guy.
Yeah.
That costs 38 zennies, which is actually $18.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's totally, that people are capable of do that. And I mean, the thing about it is that we will get outraged by this stuff. Well done, by the way, that was really good. Some of those get really hard. And the thing about it is people will get outraged about it, and it's interesting. Specifically this week, I don't know if you pay much attention to Jim Sterling at all. Kind of a former journalist gone YouTube ranter, angry YouTube guy, who talked about this and talked about the fact that the best thing that we can do is to keep talking about this stuff.
Huh.
Yeah. It goes back to what we were just talking about a minute ago. Yeah, it's to keep talking about, keep bringing up how tired we are of these microtransactions. Because the thing about it is I really think that a majority of people are tired about them, and are disappointed with them. But there's there's this whole concept of whales, which are a minority that spend the most money to stay ahead of the majority that doesn't want to spend very much.
Exactly.
And I think that that's one of those things. As long as they continue to see a profit off of a small number of people, it's going to continue to happen. And I don't know. And it's one of those things where this week's news specifically has been really heavy with microtransaction discussion, which is a good thing. I feel like. I mean, people were actually taking, legitimate news agencies were taking the time to talk about how important it was that Battlefront, with its card system and its power-up systems, will not have any microtransaction, especially because Battlefield made a ton of money off of them, and EA has made a lot of money off of microtransactions in the past too, and the fact that their big new flagship game for the year isn't going to have them, that's a huge deal, and it's a very big step in EA, as far as EA goes. I mean, it's a huge step for EA in terms of getting back in touch with their customers.
Yeah,
they've been rocking hard.
giving a lot of middle fingers to them for the past couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean that's great. That's a powerful, and it's a powerful example. If nothing else, the fact that that Battlefront doesn't have those microtransactions when it's so well, I mean, it could very easily have them, it's a big reminder of why we should keep complaining about these things. And don't if you're not happy with it, don't stop talking about it. Don't just say, look, don't give up with this idea that they're just a thing now and there's nothing we can do. I mean, that don't think that the battle is too big for you, because we've already won huge victories in this kind of fight against the things that we don't want to see in our games. I mean, we absolutely, the biggest thing we have is not even voting with a wall. It's we just won't buy the game at all. But it's no, talk about how bad it is. And I will say this, and you can put this on record, and I will stand by it. As far as I can tell at this point, until I'm done playing games, is that I don't buy microtransactions. I don't. There have been very few games that I have bought them in, or not that I've bought them in. Sorry, that I have thought about buying them in, because I've never actually done it. And those games were ones that I was already that I had paid a little bit for, but that the experience was something that I feel like they could be useful for. The best example I have of microtransaction going well is Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
Guild Wars 2 is fantastic. They did a fantastic job. You paid $60 for the base game. It was a huge MMO, a massive MMO. Had a really unique way of doing things. It offered more than most free-to-play MMOs, and you didn't have to pay a subscription fee. Why? Because they gave you practical, simple, optional things that you could buy with basically the equivalent of your monthly subscription fee, and it gave you more out of the game, and you weren't just putting your money in a hole, you know, under the assumption that they needed to do that to keep the servers running, which is not true, and it hasn't been for a very, very long time. So they've supported this model, and it was a really great way of doing it. And I think let me I'll kind of curtail what I said with, like, if I'm going to put money down on a microtransaction, it's going to be for something like that. I won't ever buy a microtransaction that doesn't give me something in the game. And honestly, based on my previous trend with things, I doubt I will ever buy a microtransaction. It's just not how. So yeah, I don't know. That was a little bit longer story than
yeah.
I wanted to get out of it. That's
okay.
Ranty but this
there,
is the kind of
fine.
thing that this is why we do this, is so we can talk about these things and get them out of the way. You want to go into our last big story wrap up on?
Sure. Which one are we talking about?
Far Cry Primal.
Okay. So
I'm gonna let you have this one first.
let me first discuss that. My first Fallout Far Cry game was Far Cry 4. Came in pack with my PS4 last year after Christmas. And at first I was really excited about it, because I've heard a lot of good things about Far Cry. I played it. At first I loved it. It was a lot of fun, the game. A lot of cool things in there. And then within, I don't know, a couple of days of playing it, I was tired of it. I was tired of
How about it?
I was tired of everyone in the game just needing me to do everything for them, which I hate in games. I was tired of this really lackluster story that was there before me, and I was tired of being way too powerful for everyone around me, essentially. So this week they said, "All right, well, here's a new game. Cool, I'll check it out." Which is Far Cry Primal. Which honestly, I was not impressed whatsoever with the trailer. All I saw was a bunch of dudes, cavemen, hunting like a mammoth, it looked like, basically. And when I saw it, I go, okay, that's it. Is that it? Okay, well, I'm done. And I think there's more to the story that I missed out on. I think Robert's going to fill me in on that.
Boss,
Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna we can do a little counterpoint on it, but I will say before I say anything else that I agree with you. The trailer was unimpressive. I think it failed to grab. I think it failed to do the job of a good reveal trailer, which is to grab people and make them want to see more. From what I can tell, it was all in-game footage, and like they did everything right on that front, but it just wasn't really engaging. It didn't really give you a good sense. It gave you a sense of what the game was and where the game was taking place, but it didn't really give us a reason to play it. And the problem with that is that after Far Cry 4, I think a lot of people really need a reason to play. They really need to be given a reason to play the next Far Cry. Far Cry 4 was I don't want to say it was a far cry from the rest of I couldn't pass it up. Sorry, I had to do it. It fit. It was a huge step backwards, I think, from Far Cry 3, just based on everything I saw about Far Cry 3, and I think I played about as much Far Cry 4 as you did. And yeah, it was cut short. It was small. It focused, I think, on the wrong things that a Far Cry game that people expected. It focused on different things than most people expected from the Far Cry games. Because there was almost like a cursory, or it felt like it was focused on survival in name only. And I think it disappointed a lot of people by the time they really sat down and looked at the game and said, "This isn't really what we wanted." That being said, yeah, the reveal trailer dropped the ball a little. Now, what they did, however, release, and what I would encourage everyone to watch, and I will absolutely be sure to put a link to it here, is they put out a behind-the-scenes video for this trailer that they revealed. And what it did was it talked with the team. I think it was Ubisoft Montreal, I want to say. What the team's vision was for the game and why they did that, why they chose the time period, and what the game was going to be about. And if you watch that, I think you'll be a lot more excited about the game than you were from just watching the trailer. Because I watched the trailer.
That makes zero sense to me at all, how they planned that out. It's like
oh no, I'm not saying
that. If you went to a movie theater and saw a trailer for a new movie, And let's say like a new James Bond trailer, right?
Snitch,
And just like
talk to me.
just James Bond like walking down the streets, and then he like drinks a glass of water. And you're like, all right, well, is that what's gonna be the new James Bond film? Just him drinking a glass of water? Like, no, well, you have to go and read this article and watch this like 2 minute interview with this guy. Like, no, you just show me what's gonna be in the movie in the trailer, and that sparks my interest.
Yeah.
So the trailer does a shitty job of what it's supposed to do in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
I will say beforehand, say, well, it's a teaser kind of, it's an idea we're working on. I'm like, well, okay. But you say, oh, it's a trailer for a new Far Cry game. Like, oh, it's a bunch of assholes in loincloths throwing spears. That seems like really boring. I will never play the game ever.
Well, I mean, okay, but I'm just saying, like, if it's one of those things where if you
Yeah.
were disappointed by the trailer and wanted to be excited, if it was one of those things like, man, I really wanted to be excited about this, but I don't get a feeling of that from the trailer itself, I recommend, and I'm talking to the audience, not you over there shaking your head, check out that behind-the-scenes video because I think it really does. What's interesting to me and what I'm looking forward to seeing in the game is I really, really hope that the game goes back and kind of rediscovers what the series was about. It's a very interesting time period because I don't think nobody's really ever focused on that period in history before. It's it's a time that seems perfect for the Far Cry, the whole core concept of Far Cry, in that it is a time where everything was very very rudimentary. We were just learning how to use tools, and these are a lot of the points they make in the video too. Is like we were just learning how to use tools. We were by no means the top of the food chain that we were even a few 100,000 years later, I want to say, or maybe a little bit less than that. We didn't dominate the space we were living in. We were scratching a living off and fighting off things that were bigger than us. And that's a lot of what Far Cry is. I mean, Far Cry is not always. It's not always necessarily. I don't think the intention of the game was ever to be. You got a long ass run ahead of you, by the way. I don't think the game was ever supposed to be these weird, back and forth stories of like Civil War and you're this big hero. It's always been about like you were dumped in a shitty situation, but you better survive, and you do what you need to do to survive. If that means become a monster, if that means shoot drugs, if that means blow up entire bases full of guys, But I mean, you're also fighting off tigers and animals that can really, really mess your shit up. And I think this was one of the things like, how can we ditch? I feel like the team was maybe getting bogged down with this whole, this idea of having a subplot to that was starting to take with, especially which apparent really with Far Cry 4 with like this subplot of like, oh, we have to give it this big international, or not international, but like this big conflict that you have to be in the middle of, and you do all stuff. It's like, no, let's just take it back to the beginning. Let's take it back to the roots of, here's a piece of wood and a stone and some leather scraps. Build something and survive. What do you need right now? You need a fire. You don't need to fight. You don't need to start a civil war. You need to,
a revolution.
You need to hunt and
like,
eat and live and not get, not get
And like,
consumed.
I can respect that out of the game. Like, if the game was just purely that, like, if they had made it, if someone makes a game that's purely, okay, you are like a primitive person, and here's what you know how to do, here's what you need to survive, go, and we cool at different like situations, like, oh, well, like, you live like in the winter kind of place, or you live in the tropics or something like that. I would be down with a game like that.
Boss, welcome.
But I don't know, like it's gonna take an impressive amount of work for Far Cry Primal to impress me.
I'm surprised that
Got time
you
to train with me?
hit it so hard so early because I mean I've definitely by no means written off. I mean I didn't write the game off from the kind of poor trailer. Just because I didn't really have a reason to, it was like I didn't care, it didn't engage me, but at the same time I was like, I'm not even screwing with this. I didn't feel that cheated by the game and by the trailer to really react very poorly to it, but it did leave me wanting a reason to pay attention to it. And to be honest, the reason that I wanted, the reason I was looking for, I got from from that behind the scenes and from behind like looking at what the game intended to bring to the forefront. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I haven't completely written it off yet, and I don't think we should just yet. I don't think that's something that it's something that they really. I think they should have probably put together a better trailer.
Yeah.
But you never know what the situation was behind that too. They could have been they could have had kind of a back off of funding as Ubisoft focuses on other things, and they needed to get something together without a lot of, without a lot of fuss or something like that. Who knows? I'm interested to see what it does. I'm interested to watch it because again, we haven't played a game like that before, and the Far Cry, like the engine and the concept and the way that the game moves and plays, is fun. It's engaging. It's interesting. And if you can take that system and put it into a game world that we haven't really seen before, we haven't gotten to explore before, that might be worth our time. In ways that some of Ubisoft's other upcoming games might not be. Looking at you, The Division, you better fucking impress me.
Yeah, it's not going to. There's gonna be some Asian guy yelling at you the entire time how bad you are at the game.
Why did he have to be Asian, Eric?
Because he was an Asian gentleman. He was yelling in our ears.
We had a pretty poor experience with the Division.
Yeah, that was the worst experience I had at a booth at PAX ever. That's
impressive, actually.
Well, like, you even know when we had a worse time at?
All you have is a pistol. You better hope it. I don't remember if there was a worse experience I've had. I'm trying to think. I've had not great experiences with PAX. PAX hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows, especially when I'm sick. And I've had booths where people didn't really seem they had a foregone conclusion in their head that people were gonna love the game no matter how they treated them. There were things like that, But I think the Division, they really were not. And maybe the other coaches were fine, but our guy was really
an asshat.
Let me put it this way: he was really unimpressed with the fact that we didn't know what we were doing. He was
in a game we don't pay for
extremely annoyed.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's like right now like watching this and just stewing.
If he is,
not.
Like he doesn't have that much time on his hands. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, but that's one of those things where like, especially when this being the year that I'm kind of on the fence about Ubisoft, which Ubisoft was always a big, one of my higher up studios in terms of ones that I enjoyed their work. Assassin's Creed has one more chance right now with me, and it's not looking good.
Come on, Rooks.
Well, and there are lots of reasons, and I'm going to reserve judgment on that one. I'm going to keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, like I'm okay with them still.
I have some ideas for how big of a hole I'm going to rip them if it's not what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But Far Cry Primal, I'm saying, like, I know you're upset about the trailer, but I would give it a little like sleep on it and see what it does for you.
Fair. I will sleep on the Far Cry Primal trailer, and if they can give me a better trailer, they'll have my attention. But as of right now, all I can say is, "Oh look, we killed this thing, huh? Buy it." Screw you. That's all I saw.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been like, here's a picture of what might be a monster. You should buy all the DLC we're going to be giving you.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the initial pitch for Evolve.
Oh yeah.
Remember me being excited about that game, and then it was really bad?
Yeah, I remember you being like, dude, like at PAX, like, oh man, you're like a monster, you can run around. Like, the idea is a cool idea.
It's a fantastic idea. And from people who really shouldn't have screwed up that idea that badly. And they did, man. Woof. It did not go well. Anyway. So yeah, hopefully we're seeing a bit of a turnaround in what Ubisoft is going to start bringing us. Honestly, what Ubisoft's top priority needs to be right now is to release a game that isn't broken at launch. If they can do that, then they're going to be... Then we can work on how good their trailers look. Like, if they took time out of their day... Like, if they didn't want to take more time out for that trailer because they were dealing with shit that was actually broken and needed to be fixed, that's fine. I'll give them that.
Sure, right?
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm still looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing more about it, rather. So yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on that one. Do we have anything else that we wanted to kind of close out on?
I think we're good.
Think of, yeah.
I think we're gonna wrap it up now. We're gonna wrap up the wrap up, people.
Yep, I think. You good with that one?
I'm very proud of myself.
All right. Yeah, that's good. That's all right. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. We are gonna be doing these once a week. Please let us know if you enjoyed what we were talking about. If you think there's anything we can do to make this a little bit better, we're gonna be getting a little bit better at making sure that all of our sources and everything are covered. I know we it might seem a little bit off the cuff.
Shoestrings and gum, kids.
Yeah, the shoestrings and gum metaphor holds here, but we're hopefully as we keep doing these, they're going to get better, a little bit tighter. We're going to get a little bit smarter with our time, which I think is going to be the big thing. Like the more stuff we can kind of work in, the better. So yeah, if there's anything else that you think that we could do better, please leave us a comment. Let us know. Obviously, it would help if you hit the subscribe button too. We did that. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. We'll be coming back with some really cool stuff next week, Eric. I think we got some cool stuff in the pipe. Some interesting indie stuff and more of our Alien Isolation playthrough for October that Eric is enjoying. Finally, I find a game for Eric to play that he actually likes instead of getting grumpy and dying a million times.
You're just there's 18,000 guys in sight, and you're like you have a tree branch in your hand.
So the issue is, I need to take away all of the real weapons and all of the enemies, give him one enemy he can't possibly kill, and a flare, and he'll like it. Is that what I'm getting at here?
Or just like everyone's so hard on about how great Bloodborne is, and it's not that very good. And I don't understand the whole. Like,
it's a good game.
Oh, it's good because
it is an
everything's
objectively
black.
well done game.
Oh. And you can't win.
It's not a bad game because you didn't enjoy it. That's not fair.
Bloodborne is like a Mario level done by Ross. It's just like it's shitty and annoying. It makes you want to like kill people.
That's gonna be a Game Grumps reference, which I'm sure everyone on YouTube has covered this week. That's been a big deal for this week, and those are great videos, by the way.
My wife loves them actually.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So yeah. Well, anyway. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next week. Keep an eye on our Twitter as well for more updates on the schedule. Yep. And we'll see you later.
Later, kids. Behave.
Unlike that guy who's unconscious and
until next time,
won't be waking up anytime
soon. Stay cool.
You should probably balloon him.